costs a hell of a lot more. And while I'm in Boston, I can totally see, committing to that.
Even connecting to the cost, the cheapest foods in the supermarket are rice, beans, potatoes, pastas.
All carbs. Where do you get the protein?
Legumes are not carbs.
Yeah.
But again, that's also a health debate.
Right,
and
right.
that's more of the how. I'm discussing with you the why.
Oh, yeah.
You
I'm
know?
totally with you on the why.
Because you or anyone else can't properly plan their own individual diets is not a justification to cut an animal's head off for a sandwich. Would you like to know what we're doing here, or are you in a rush?
Yeah, no, tell me.
Absolutely.
I'm vegetarian, so it caught my eye.
So you're vegetarian?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, then you're our target market. So what we're doing here is we're showing the reality of what happens to animals in the meat, dairy, and egg industries.
Yeah.
What we're showing on each one of these screens is standard practice. So the highest level of welfare that these entities believe they have is what we're showcasing here. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No.
No, you haven't?
Nope.
I'm surprised you managed to film all this, because they're very particular about not letting that imagery get out, right?
Right, yeah, that's kind of the whole idea of it, is to just continue to romanticize the marketing plot by showing you, a cartoon animal on the package.
Yeah.
But what really happens is this here on the screens. So what's on the package is those labels are only designed to make you feel better. They actually do nothing for making the animals feel better.
So that's free range?
So yeah, like I was just saying, any of those labels are just a marketing ploy. So whether it's free range, cage-free, organic, antibiotic-free, any of your favorite words that, define the happy meats and happy milks, this is actually the standard practice of what happens inside of those industries.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel when you see footage like this now that you have seen it?
No, I mean, I am vegetarian for ethical reasons.
Okay.
So part of what we always discuss is, do we want to go vegan?
Right.
And it's a little hard because we already feel like we don't eat meat, and it's hard for us to get the proteins and all of that. But I mean, we're definitely, we understand this quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you went vegetarian for ethical implications, so it's safe to say that you guys are against animal abuse?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is literally why we don't eat meat. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Question for you. As a vegetarian, do you think it's possible to feel so strongly about animal abuse, but also contribute to it on a consumer level?
Yeah.
No, we don't buy leather.
No, on a consumer level, as in like paying for products that are directly connected to animal abuse, as dairy or eggs.
I know,
or
right. That's what
So
we're trying. We're really trying. We're trying. We're, at least on the milk front as well. We're only doing oat milk. We don't do milk anymore.
Right.
But it's hard. We're getting there, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
But
And it can be.
That's right there.
I totally. I totally feel what you're saying, and I definitely felt the exact same way when I first got into this.
Yeah.
But what I found is that once I looked through the eyes of the victims,
Yeah.
it was actually the easiest thing that I ever did.
Right.
And it wasn't so much about trying, it was just about recognizing what was inherently wrong.
Yeah.
And just kind of eradicating that from my life. What do you think would be like the biggest obstacle or the biggest hurdle from being vegan?
Nutrition.
Yeah.
Proper nutrition,
Like,
if you're traveling, if you're just easy options. I mean, as a vegetarian itself, like, it's hard
to get,
enough
like, good
to get
protein,
good
right?
protein. You just
Like-
end up eating a whole bunch of carbs.
Like, you eat pasta and bread and things like that. So we do, one of the reasons we eat eggs is because it's a good source of protein for us. Because we don't eat chicken, right? We don't eat meat. So we're like, where else do we get our protein from? Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Right.
So
And that's going to be a conditional thing. I mean, there are so many different approaches to any different diet. So it's about kind of just dialing in what works for you as individuals. But when we're taking in comparison, like not eating the chicken but eating the eggs, it's actually one and the same, you know? So like, in order to eat eggs, what we're showing here on this particular screen, this is what's called waste management in the industry, because male chicks will never produce eggs.
Yeah.
So when they're distinguished as males, they're instantly grinded up on their first day of life because it's more cost effective to get rid of them. And even in a backyard egg situation where it's like, oh, I get local eggs and everything's fantastic at my local farm.
Yeah.
You know, local farms are not safe havens for animals. The local farms can't do anything with male chicks as well, so they have to get rid of them. And even the act of having the chicken in the first place, nobody would have a chicken on their property because they love them like their dogs or their cats or their birds or their companion animals. They keep them on their property to exploit their bodies as units of production. It's almost like they owe them a debt.
Yeah.
I'm fully with you, man. I completely agree. I think milk is easy to, uh, you know, give up because
there are
there
good
are
alternatives.
good alternative options in oat and almond and blah blah blah. I love eating eggs. Like I really like eggs. But you're completely right. So here's a question. Um, is there any ethical sourcing of eggs possible that is realistic?
Well, realistically, if we're talking about being against animal abuse, as all three of us have pretty much come to that conclusion, the use is the abuse. So when you talk about finding a better way, that would be welfareism, looking for bigger cages, longer life expectancies,
Right.
a way to kill them in a more humane way. But I'm sure you recognize that there's no humane way to kill someone who doesn't want to die. So the use would be the abuse.
No, I'm with you. I don't have a good answer. Or
And do you guys know the number one benefit of being vegan?
No.
Number one,
I don't know, health?
health. What about you?
I mean, definitely less abuse for animals, but I guess climate, environment.
climate environment is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so health and environmental impact.
Yeah.
Again, those are all conditional. Those are possible bonuses.
Yeah.
Once you understand the why,
Yeah.
that may come along with it. But the number one benefit, of course, would first be for the animals.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, I mean,
Would
Yeah.
no longer be abused
Of course,
and
of
tortured on your behalf. But the
Yeah.
number one benefit for you as individuals would
Yeah.
be if you say you're against animal abuse, that you no longer have to be hypocrites.
Yeah.
And the only way to eliminate that hypocrisy out of your day-to-day life is to align your actions with your beliefs.
Yeah.
So are those male chicks being grinded up?
Right here on the screen?
Yep.
Yeah, so as soon as they're distinguished as males, they serve no purpose to the industry, so it's more cost effective to get rid of them. And this happens on a much smaller scale on a local farm. There's no difference. Male chicks are just useless because only the females can lay eggs. And I mean, even in a similar sense with the dairy, just like any other woman, there has to be, in order to lactate, they have to be pregnant.
No, fully.
So
with you.
forcible impregnation, and then once they do give birth to their calf, the child is then taken directly away from them because that milk has to be commodified and sold to humans.
Yep.
So even though I understand you've taken a dive into vegetarianism, vegetarianism is still contributing directly to what you see on the screens.
So it's always a struggle as to like where you are on the spectrum. Some people are like, yes, we understand we're still going to eat meat because that's just what we've always done. Some people are somewhere in between, and I think that's where we are, at least as of right now. And then some people are, at the correct end of the spectrum, which is being completely vegan.
When you say completely vegan, there
There
really
being
is no
vegan.
fully vegan. There's no
Sure,
other
sure.
side to animal abuse. It's you are against animal abuse or you contribute directly to it.
Right.
And you mentioned, the other industries, leather, silk, and other industries that may test on animals and that sort of thing. And that's what is veganism, is excluding any product that is derived from an animal that's as practicable as possible.
So take a hard look at the whole fishing industry and fisheries and all of that.
Absolutely, fish are animals, and a lot of people will think that fish are just swimming vegetables, but in reality, fish have sentience just like you or I. They perceive pain in the same way that you or I would. The knife across a fish's throat, a chicken's throat, a cow's throat is going to feel no different than a knife across your throat. And people will try to gauge, depth of consciousness or brain capacity, but it's really just about respecting the earth-given right to live.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. No, thank you. This is great for awareness. It gets us thinking. But
we live in a modern city in 2020. I mean, there are endless options for food.
For sure. It costs a hell of a lot more. And while I'm in Boston, I can totally see, committing to that.
Even connecting to the cost, the cheapest foods in the supermarket are rice, beans, potatoes, pastas.
All carbs. Where do you get the protein?
Legumes are not carbs.
Yeah.
But again, that's also a health debate.
Right,
And
right.
that's more of the how. I'm discussing with you the why.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I'm fully with you on the why.
Because you or anyone else can't properly plan their own individual diets is not a justification to cut an animal's head off for a sandwich.
I am fully with you. I'm just saying that, you know, me is one thing, but at large, if society has to be pushed in that direction, I don't think it will necessarily come from, you know, everybody waking up one day and having a conscience. This is part of the process.
I think that it's also important to not dive too much into like a defeatist attitude, because if you and I don't go out and, you know, commit a violent crime tonight, it's not going to rid the planet of violent crime.
Right.
But you and I as individuals are not contributing to it. So when people mention what's happening around the globe, I always try to bring it back to the individual. And I know that you said that you're traveling and you know, you're doing your best and that you're trying to be as reasonable as possible. I would just ask, you know, if you applied that logic anywhere else, would you take that same stance on any other injustice? You know,
no.
Only a little bit of racism, or doing my best not to be sexist, or, you know, domestic abuse, child abuse, any of these things that we know are inherently wrong.
I agree. No, it's definitely thought provoking. Of you know, where do you draw the line? I mean, people cut down forests, right? And entire I guess like ecosystems get destroyed.
Right. But cutting down the forest again isn't a justification for you as an individual.
No. I'm fully with you. What I'm saying is, it goes. You know, you cut down a forest for timber or wood that, you know, goes to get something built, hypothetically. So this is my view. Humans, just because of how unsustainably we live, whether it is through dietary practices or even other things, there is, you know, you have to make space for human behavior by compromising on animal rights in some form or the other.
So we will displace nature and cause harm by merely existing. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking to you about is harm reduction in the form of unnecessary violence.
Yes.
So if I walk back to the other side of this and I accidentally step on a bug, that's accidental harm in comparison to intentional harm.
Right. So, but anyways, no, I'm with you. Thank you for this.
Yeah, thank you.
As a vegetarian moving forward and understanding,
we're halfway there.
what do you think that you're gonna do moving forward? Just diving into the information
definitely. Like, look into this.
Yeah, I really implore you to check it out, because if you really have that moral imperative, and you really connect with the why, the how is gonna fall into place. I know that you're struggling with that right now, but once you really resonate with that why, the how is the easiest thing ever.
Yeah.
And you know, just know that until you do implement that change, that, you know, animals will be suffering on your behalf, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, that's a good takeaway.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for the conversation, guys.
Thank
Safe
you.
travels, all right?
Bye.